leads. You can't close the lead.
The leads are weak.
The leads are weak. Fucking leads are weak. You're weak. BB. These are the new leads. These are the Glengarry leads.
Leads. The leads I've given you.
But these leads are shit. What
Lead,
about the
you'll take
new
what you
lead?
got.
The new leads, the Glengarry lead.
He'll get his lead.
The leads are garbage.
Why give him the good lead?
The leads. No, he's got the leads. He's got the leads. He's got the good leads.
Wow, there's a lot more swearing on that clip than I remembered. Of course, famous clip from Glengarry, Glenn Ross. If you haven't seen that movie and you're a marketer or a salesperson, you got to see that movie. It's it's somewhat unbelievable, and it also nails it. But anyway, let's get right into the B2B marketing mindset. I'm Pete Monfre. It's my co-host Bill Lowell, founder of Business Development Directives, the best darn marketing research firm in the known universe. It's the whole thing, including Pluto.
The universe of you and I.
That's right. In our own minds.
Exactly.
No, I mean that. I'm sincere. Today's topic, leads, how to get them, what works, what doesn't, and the big secret marketing people aren't going to tell you because you'll hate it. You're not going to like hearing it. Of course, they want to make a sale, so they don't want to tell you the truth. We're going to talk about that towards the end, so you want to stay for the whole thing. Plus, always our final thoughts, very deep final thoughts. You know, but first, it's my duty to tell you there's a ton of more valuable content, or not more valuable than this. This is going to be super valuable. I'm just saying that there's more quantity of content at b2bmarketingmindset.com. Now, you can subscribe there, and you'll always get special content that you're not going to find on the big platforms like Spotify, like Apple Podcasts, all the places that we are. You can see it in the scroll. You can also subscribe everywhere fine podcasts are consumed if you prefer that. And we're going to put those links in the comments. And we broadcast live every Thursday, 11 o'clock Central, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, soon to be Twitch. And you can follow us on any of those platforms as well. So we're going to get that business out of the way. So you look dapper as usual. You got a little Christmassy tie going on there. Does it taste like peppermint?
Actually, I was thinking about that because I've got a peppermint tie that I thought, well, I'll wear that in a couple of weeks. So nice. Stay tuned. You know,
nice.
So
tastes like peppermint and sweat, which is always good. Things are good behind the cheddar curtain.
They are very good, except we can't see the cheddar because we've had snow and cold up here since the last couple of weeks.
The white cheddar, as we like to call it.
Yeah, I bet you don't miss any of that. You know?
Nope. Can't even remember what that's like, thankfully. We gave away our snowblower when we moved out of Wisconsin the night before. We gave it to the neighbor. And the morning that we were set to drive out of Milwaukee and head to Austin, towing the Corvette on a trailer behind us, and then, of course, a separate semi with many other things, it snowed like 4 feet. That night. We were snowed in, and luckily this neighbor Tim, awesome guy from where were they from? Somewhere in Africa, came over and helped dig us out, and so we got on our way.
That was your going away present.
Yeah, it was just confirming we were making the right decision, really. So
exactly.
This topic today is so deep and wide. It's changing fast. There's so much misperception around it, and it's also the number one reason clients hire us, to fix this problem. They need more, better leads. Better.
Yes.
As Maceo Parker album, Mo Better Jazz. Or is it Mo Better Blues? I don't remember. But if you don't know about Maceo Parker, look him up. Saxophone player for James Brown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, awesome. The things you learn on this podcast, you're not going to learn them anywhere else, folks.
That's why I'm a co-host. I just learned I learned so much from you that I just kind of, soak it all in. So thank you.
You get all the good irrelevant stuff.
I need to send you more fan mail,
Well, that would be nice, because then I would get some. There you go. Besides what my mom sends. I've got some axes to grind on this, by the way. And, I'm hoping to deliver some clarity and help our listeners kind of face the cold truth about B2B lead generation. It might not be what you want to hear. So, why don't we jump right into it? I think the very first thing, and, turn this. So I'll ask you this non-rhetorical question. What is a lead?
Okay.
What on earth are we talking about? We got a sync issue. Uh-oh, that's a bad thing at the beginning of the program.
Do you want me to try to address how I see a lead, or just kind of the generic what is a lead?
Well, yeah, just whatever you please.
Okay. I think the key thing is, I would definitely go more for, quality versus quantity. A lot of people think of it as a numbers game, and that they can, if they get 100 inquiries, and then out of those 100, they can get 20 people that they get to talk to on the phone or see in person, and then 5 might lead to a proposal. To me, I mean, numbers sometimes work, but I would much rather have a better qualified lead. So in my opinion, a lead for me would be something that is really, it's exactly up our target prospect or target customer. It's exactly what we want to deal with. And then, and they're ready, or at least very close to wanting to pull the trigger and do something. So that, in my opinion, would be my definition of lead. How about you? How would you look at that?
Well, it's a good question here, and I'm actually, if I seem distracted, I'm actually working on fixing this sync problem as we're talking here. Let me see if I can work on mine here too, real quick. Let's see if this works a little better. So I look at it this way. Oh boy, that seems worse. I've made it worse.
Oh no.
Listen, if we have to dive out of this podcast, we're going to come right back on again and start right from the top. That's what we're going to do. Because I can't stand it when the audio is not synchronized. So bear with us here. But really, the way that we look at lead generation and then the funnel in general is there's marketing qualified leads. Because the classic definition of lead is someone who has shown interest and taken action, right? That's not really a very good definition anymore, because you have people, let's say they downloaded a resource of some kind, right? Traditionally, that would be handed over to sales, and also traditionally, sales would say, these leads stink. And so it's because there's very little intent behind that. You don't know if they have any intent to actually buy or not. So it's kind of a low intent lead. It's marketing qualified, technically a lead, or MQL. But then there's another stage of lead, is sales qualified lead. So this is when sales has talked to them. Our sync problem is just as bad, isn't it? Sales has talked to them, and they have been able to sort of discern their intent. They've been able to discern, do they have the budget? Are they the right people? So these definitions are evolving all the time. So, this idea that because they downloaded a paper, they signed up for a webinar, that you need to call them right now, and somehow that's a lead. It's in a way, it's a vanity metric, right? MQLs, which the vast majority of the world are still obsessed with, not the right way, not the right way to do it. You're going to spend a lot of time following up with a lot of people who are never going to buy. So we like to split those into two. Then there is intent data. And so we'll talk about that next. Let me ask how we're doing here on the crazy delay. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully the folks that are listening and watching just fix it in post. So sorry, folks, if it drives you nuts, bear with us. But let's get to the different types of, wait, are we on? So we're already kind of into the types of leads. I'm so distracted. So the types of leads, MQL, SQL, there's high intent, there's low intent. Nowadays, because of big data, you can get intent information on those leads. And so obviously the ones that are showing high intent, what does that mean? Yeah. Maybe they've interacted with a lot of your content, right? Gartner says it takes 20 contacts, 20 touches for a B2B lead to convert. And that just means initially say, hey, I'm interested, right? 20, wow. Right?
So does that give me some clarity on that? Pardon the pun. So would that be like they've gone to your website, they've downloaded something? I mean, those count as those would be two touches. So what
Those
else
would be
could be?
right. They see a social media post. They read about you in a publication. They meet you at a networking event, or everything counts as a touch. I guess that's kind of the good news, right? They see an ad, that's a touch, right? And this is, we're going to get to the big secret nobody wants to tell you, and it involves this. But, a lead is not a lead, okay? There are different kinds and different levels of intent. There's stages that a buyer goes through after they may have shown some initial interest. And so how you handle that lead, here's a classic, well, we'll get into this next, but a classic mistake that companies make. But, look at your funnel. Mm-hmm. And does it still look like the funnel from 10 years ago, 15 years ago? If it does, it's time to update that. Okay, it's too much to get into here. Obviously, our audio listeners can't see us, so they don't get the benefit of the amazing graphics and our good-looking faces. That's why you want to go to b2bmarketingmindset.com. You get the entire picture. So lots of different kinds of leads. And this is, like I said, it's a deep topic. So, we're going to go pretty fast through this. But I think the most important takeaway here is if your agency is just giving you a list of names and emails because they downloaded a paper or signed up for a webinar, I'm not saying that's worthless. I mean, there's still value in that, right? But it's probably not what you have in mind. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's exactly what you were talking about. It might be one of the first stages of that sales funnel. If it's taken 20 touches, you're just at the beginning. So don't misunderstand it as being a qualified lead at that point that we can run and do something with, So
well, great example, Constant Contact, the email platform. It's incredible. When you first sign up for Constant Contact, you get a sales call immediately, right? Now, listen, you haven't even had time to go through the system and decide if it's right for you or not. You're not in a decision place yet. Okay, that's one great example. Another one is, have you done this, or you download a paper or something like that, and you get a call from a salesperson? Hey, I noticed you downloaded this paper. First of all, I'm thinking, are you looking through my window? What? That's kind of creepy. But the other thing is, I probably haven't even read it yet. It might be a week before I read it. So what to do? What do you do with those low intent, traditionally called a qualified lead? It's not qualified.
Yeah.
What we do is we put them into an automated sequence of email. Mm-hmm. So we start nurturing those leads. We send them more information that's related to whatever it is that they showed interest in. Hey, you might enjoy this. Here's some more information on that. This is where content starts to become important, right? And then at some point, that lead will graduate. Let me throw a scenario out. They're in your drip campaign now, and they don't open a single one of those emails. Do you send that over to sales?
Some people do, but it's a mistake.
Yeah, if you want sales to be like, these leads suck, Glenn Ross. We want the good leads. But maybe some of the people on that list, maybe they've opened all 3 emails, and you also know that they've watched 90% of the video or whatever it is that you're sending them, right? Yeah. Right. Okay, now it's time to hand them over to sales. So timing becomes important, because this is where the battle comes from between sales and marketing, right? Yeah. Sales is saying, these leads suck. And by extension, you marketing people suck. And marketing saying, you salespeople can't close, you losers. Okay? Neither one of those things is true, but also both of those things can be true.
Would you recommend to our audience though, Pete? So let's say that somebody, like you were talking about, they downloaded something, they started some interest, but then they didn't open up your follow-up emails. Would it make any sense at all to contact them via the phone just to ask if they had any questions or anything else? Or is that too soon in the process? Do we wait until we engage them further along, or do they go into a bucket that they're kind of a tire kicking cult? I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but
I think there's nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
let it soak for a little bit, and you're still not getting engagement. Maybe you're getting in their spam filter, and they never even saw those things, and
That's
there
a really
is some
good
level
point.
of interest, right?
Yeah.
So yes, but I think it's just don't hand it to sales right away, and don't reach out to them right away. Okay, this is how you irritate people. But
Right.
also, what it does is it pumps up your sales forecast in an unrealistic way. Like, oh,
Yes.
look at our pipeline, right?
I
And
know.
90% of them are low intent, no intent.
I used to, you know, this a million years ago before I started my own business. I worked for one of the largest management consulting companies in the country, and that's what they used to do. It's like they would have these pipe, and they would be, you know, and their head of the person who did the sales, he would be coming in all of the sales meetings. Look at how many leads we've given you, and it's like more than half of those would be worthless, you know, and it's like it was very, very frustrating. So if somebody's going through that experience right now, I can certainly empathize with them, because just like you were saying,
Yeah.
there's so much more to get it to a qualified lead, you know?
I'm going to make an admission here. I think most clients are still in that mode, and sometimes it's just easier to give in on that. I mean, because this gets complicated fast, right? And I think that's one of the challenges. But, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I mean, there's some realities here that marketers and clients need to face, okay?
Yes.
Because otherwise you're living a lie, and it's going to cost you money. And we don't like that around here. So let's go to our next point.
But hang on, before we do that, you know, sometimes, and this is just the cautionary tale, you know this, you know, you might get a client, you know, and you have some ad agency or a PR firm or whatever, and they're trying to produce that stuff, and they're just throwing all of those unqualified leads just to be able to prove that, oh, we're making a difference, and maybe they're not, you know, or
They're
maybe it's
pumping
just
the
the beginning.
numbers up. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
You know, I wouldn't call it a vanity metric necessarily, but in a way, depending on how you handle it, it could be. And about vanity metrics, going off on a tangent here, but vanity metrics aren't completely useless. I mean, if you're listening to the chatter in the marketing industry, you might start to get that idea. But some vanity metrics, some of them are purely useless, but some of them are actually leading indicators. And so you still monitor your email open rates and your click-through rates and these things. But if you're looking at them like, hey, here are the results we've produced, right? Now you're going to have a client that says, I don't see that in my wallet. Okay, you're full of shit, goes on downhill from there, right?
Yes.
So now let me remind all the clients out there, your marketing firm is not in the job of closing deals, okay? So measuring on revenue might not be the best measure. Unless you want us to completely run your entire business, then we're happy to do so. Boy, I get harsh sometimes in the show, don't I? I'm just a harsh mistress.
No. And I actually set you up, so I apologize for that. But I just wanted to clarify, and I think you're just
No, you
being
didn't.
honest, and that's why I brought it up. I mean, I think, you know, like you were talking about, and sometimes it's unfortunate because the client puts you on that pressure too, where they're trying to force, what have you done for me lately, which I also think is one of the sales things that we talk about as well.
Well, and we guarantee our work, and so we're putting ourselves under that pressure too. We want to earn that business every single month, and so, you know, but it's still up to us to make sure that we're doing it in the way that's best for the client. So, and we'll talk about this a little more. But what doesn't work? Give me some examples of lead generation approaches that don't work.
Well, let me back up for 2 seconds. When we had our panel discussion with some of those experts, and I don't know if people have seen that, but if they haven't, they should go to B2B Marketing Mindset and take a look at that, because it was outstanding. But remember, we had a huge debate going on with regard to, is it the human touch, and do they want to actually see a salesperson, talk to a salesperson, or is it going to be self-serve? And I mean, we don't have enough time to rehash that here, but that's a big debate. So when you talk about what doesn't work, part of me sits here as a market research person and says, you got to figure that out through some research, or you've got to collect some data on that, because it's not going to be the same for every business or every market segment. So
Right.
so that's my first thought with regard to.
So you're saying, if it doesn't work for the client, that's your first thing right there. I mean, for your prospect or your ideal client profile, if it doesn't work for them, then it's not going to work.
Yes.
Period.
Yes, I would
What
agree
else?
with that. There's a lot of things that I thought about with regard to mistakes that people make. So you talked about that earlier on, but neglecting the target audience definition. So I think even just early on, making a profile. What is a good target audience? So like, how do you know when it's a good lead or not? So that's a mistake, or what doesn't work, in my opinion.
Not having criteria for what a lead looks like. Right.
Yes.
So extreme example, we sell to companies that are investing money and they're not happy with their outcome. They're B2B companies. They're a certain size. We need to talk to certain people. If I get a 15-year-old gamer boy filling out my form as a prank, extreme example, but probably not going to follow up with them. Sorry, guy.
Yeah.
It's not because of your inherent value.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a couple more, but I've got probably 20, but I'll just give you 2 or 3. Ignoring the importance of the content quality. Some people will just think, well, I just got to have some content or throw it, but it's like, wait a minute, that's part of your brand. And, that could be a mistake with regard to that whole process as well, creating generic or low content quality. So I think that's good. Feel free to jump in on any of these.
Going overseas for that content, just
Yes.
because maybe it'll work good with search engines, but not so good with human beings. I see that all the time. Don't forget, a human being's going to see it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I think you're so right. And you've talked about this, but that was one of the things that I listed too, is being inconsistent with nurturing the leads through your sales funnel. So first of all, knowing if it's a qualified lead or not. But the second thing is, just like you were talking about, what are the steps that you're going to take to warm that lead up before it goes over to the salespeople? I think there are a lot of people, just like you mentioned, that will just kind of transfer it right away. And it's like, boy, that's a huge mistake. So.
Well, and I think I'm guilty of that sometime. We're a very small company, and so I'm kind of doing both of those roles a lot of times, and I've got some help too, but I mean, it comes down to me most of the time. And, we could probably do a better job with that. I mean, I never want to be up here, preaching from the stump on things. We're not perfect either, but we hope that this information kind of helps you. One of the things that comes to mind for me right away is when you see a call to action that says, contact us for more information. And they're like, nobody ever contacts us. What's the story there? What's the deal? Now,
Marketing
it's
person's
okay.
bad.
Well, it depends. Let me give you some context on that. So it's okay, have a contact form, contact us. Usually if people do that, that's going to probably be a high intent lead, because what's missing is an incentive. What is in it for me? But let's say you do an email campaign, you send them to a landing page, and then there's a form here that says, schedule a free consultation. That's a real common one, right? People are going to perceive that as schedule a free sales call. Okay? People don't like sales calls. That's not an incentive. An incentive would be, here is some exclusive research that's really relevant to that prospect that they can't get anywhere else.
Right.
And you might put that behind an email form. Nowadays, people are getting rid of the form completely. They're ungating content. They're just saying, hey, look, here it is. Click here. Now, what's going on there? The analytics behind it are able to identify who that person is. Okay, so there's no reason for them to fill the form out. That just creates a little more friction. I still think there's a place for email walls. We still use them. But we also ungate a lot of content. All of this content that we create every single week, there's no gate, folks. It's just free. Free. Who says you can't get nothing good for free?
Well, and that's another one too, that people that minimize the efforts of social media or a broadcast or webinars or other kinds of content. So some of that good content I think is good. But the other thing that I think you'll be real happy with that I mentioned here is that so many companies, what doesn't work is thinking that there's only one thing. You know what I mean? It's like there's going to be a multitude of things you have to do, both traditional and digital, that you're going to have to do to try to attract some of those those new customers. So I think people relying on only one thing, whether that's advertising or whatever they do, there should be
Yeah,
some
well,
multiple channels.
they're looking for that silver bullet, right?
Yes.
I get
yes.
this all the time. Is it email? Should we do email?
Yeah.
Should we do ads? Should we do social?
Yeah.
And I just say, yes, right? Silver bullet. I was just talking to my friend Linda Sanchez, a master media buyer, yesterday, and we were talking about the silver bullet theory, which I just love.
Yeah.
But hey, let me just take a minute here. I want to talk about our sponsor, one of our sponsors. We're going to start doing this. Today's sponsor is a company close to my heart, and that's my company, Clarity Marketing Support. So, we work with clients that, I would be able to scroll this window if I could find it, but here we go. And so we work with clients that they're investing money in marketing. They're probably spending a lot of money on sales, and they're just not happy with outcomes. And sometimes they're not sure why, but they're just not seeing the results that they expect. We've been in business 33 years. We guarantee our work. So here's a no-brainer offer, all right? Reach out. I'm so easy to find. We'll do an audit of your marketing programs, and if we don't find at least one significant hidden problem that's directly impacting your revenue, we're going to give you your money back, all right? That's a big offer, Bill, because we're not cheap.
That's great.
So I'm so easy to find. So reach out, and maybe we can help. Our ideal client, running a small, privately held firm, you're facing a hurdle, a transition. Maybe you want to get from 10 million to 20, from 20 to 40, something like that. We work in a bunch of different industries. So anyway, that's enough commercial for today. But we appreciate our sponsor, Clarity Marketing Support. And next week, we'll appreciate our other sponsor, Business Development Directives. And if you want to sponsor the program, we'll appreciate you as well. So we've talked about what doesn't work. Let's talk about what does work. What the heck does work? I don't know. No, I do.
I think a lot.
I have
of
a good sense.
Do you want to go? Do you want to go first this time?
What does work? Okay, so it's going to be a lot of the opposite of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
So integrated marketing. Maybe there's a newfangled term for this now. I don't know, but
I think it's called clarity integration theory. That's what it is.
Something like that.
By your sponsor.
Here's a harsh truth. You're going to have to be everywhere that your prospect is, okay? It doesn't mean you're going to be everywhere. You're only going to be everywhere your prospect is. This is why you got to know who they are, right? And where they gather, right? But let's make an analogy here. You're trying to date someone and you choose one tactic. You're going to go camp on their lawn until they say yes. It's not going to be long.
Does it work?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work.
It's a bad idea, really.
You're going to end up in jail, right?
Yeah.
Now, so let's say that you're just emailing people, and you're just emailing them, pounding them with email. I get this all the time, by the way, in my inbox. I bet if I go there right now, I got 5 of them today. And a lot of them, at some point, they'll be like, you're just not responding to my email. Yeah, you know why? Because I'm not interested. Stop emailing me, and hit the spam filter on it. I mean, it's the truth is, like I said, Gartner says 20 touches, right? But it can't be the same touch all the time, all right? You're going to get on that spam list. You have to be everywhere, omnipresent. The only way to do that is to have an integrated strategy where every piece of it, your social, your advertising, your email marketing, your sales process, all working together to force multiply. The sum of those parts greater than the value of any one part. That's it. That's what works. But it's hard, it's inexpensive. And we can't change that.
And the other thing too is if somebody is nervous or thinking that you might be, just spamming them if you did some email marketing, by hitting some of those other channels, just like you're talking about, it at least enhances your credibility, or it gets them to think, oh, I guess maybe they are legitimate. Do you mean? So otherwise we don't know if it's a bot or something else that somebody's, fooling
Well,
around with. So I think you're right.
it's the psychological phenomenon. I keep hearing about these guys all the time, therefore they must be good. Little flawed logic there for you, but that is how people think, right? And so they don't know that they're inside of a matrix that a marketer created, and they're inside of it, and there's a reason they're hearing about you all the time, right? Maybe it's an algorithm on LinkedIn, and you're probably thinking to yourself, man, I keep seeing this podcast all the time. What is the deal with this? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, there's a reason. And so I think that you have to be careful not to saturate it. And sometimes I think, here's one strange thing about LinkedIn. If there are people that you're connected with and they only have like 100 followers and you're putting out a fairly good amount of content, they're just going to be like, they're going to think that you're just burying them.
Harassing, that's right. Yeah.
But it's because they have so few contacts. If you have 500, 1,000 contacts, I think I have almost 5,000 followers, something like that. And then plus, I'm not sure how many contacts, at least that many. So their feeds, my feed goes fast. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but you see something that you want to read and you wait for a second and you go to click on it, it is gone. And you'll scroll and scroll and scroll trying to find it. It's literally gone in seconds. Right. And so frequency starts to become important because your post is only going to get noticed really for a second or less. And so that's where frequency comes in. So frequency works. It's not enough to be everywhere. You need to be everywhere frequently. Reach and frequency. That's what we're talking about. Reach and frequency, those old-fashioned words. Words my grandpa used.
That's good.
What else works?
And this is borderline of one of our secrets, but I think that one of the things that also works is when you do land a new customer, prospect, client, whatever you want to refer to them, do a little research and reach out and ask them, what was it that caused, to go over the edge and actually work with us, and what initially got you interested, and then what did it take? And they'll probably tell you exactly what you just said. Well, it was, you were everywhere, or it was this and this and this, or, so I think that's really important. And then on the flip side of that, one of the things that I think people do a disservice to their companies, if you do a proposal, or if you try to get some business and you don't, or you lose it. You and I have done this, the lost customer or the lost prospect, you can learn so much and start picking up on trends by just that quick, follow-up. Right.
And now it's easier than ever. Everybody's using the CRMs. You mark a deal as lost, right? Yeah. And now you have, eventually, over a period of time, you're going to have a list. Let's say it's just even 30 deals at a time.
Yeah.
Have a researcher reaching out to those people. They're not going to tell you, by the way, but they'll tell a third party. You want to know why you didn't get the deal. It's just as important as why you did. And over time, you're going to start to see patterns, right? That's a huge one. I didn't even think of that. And it's funny I didn't think of it because we do those.
And you and I have done some of those together. So
yeah,
it's like kind of,
it's a big one. Networking. Here's an interesting thing, I think. A lot of my business experiences was in Milwaukee, where we had a firm there, and we remember our beautiful offices downtown.
I do.
Oh, I miss them. I don't miss the payments. My beautiful conference room. Remember that glass table? It was just awesome. But where in the hell was I going? Oh, I know. Networking.
What else is working?
Networking wasn't really a thing in Milwaukee. At least I don't remember it. I mean, I don't remember ever going to a networking event. I mean, I know there was one-on-one networking. We were always talking to everybody in the market. Still talk to a lot of those people. Just heard from Jerry Batzner the other day.
Nice.
I know. But in Austin, it's very networking driven. And so, but there's a lot of people who don't understand networking. They don't understand the value of, when I talk to somebody, I meet somebody new and I get to know them a little bit. I go a little bit deep into kind of, what does a customer look like for you? I make it my personal mission to introduce them to somebody who's going to be a good contact for them. Maybe a prospect, maybe just someone else who can expand their network. And I don't expect a thing in return. I'm just going to help as many people as I can, as often as I can, with no expectation. All right. I'm going to give some credit here. I did not invent this. I learned it from people. Steve Harper, Scott Ingram, Peter Stropel, okay, Artie Byrne. This is such a powerful new business development tool. If you're not out there putting nickels in the karma bank, helping other people, start tomorrow. And it's not a quid pro quo. Like I introduce Bill to somebody, I don't have an expectation that Bill's going to be like, okay, man, don't you owe me an introduction? No. But I know that everybody that I help, it creates a vacuum of social value where they're like, gosh, I got to do something for Pete. Now they may or may not, but the universe provides, right? I mean, it's not a one-on-one thing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. In fact, I tell some.
It's
of
not
my
a transaction.
Some of my clients, I'll tell, like if they're really slow, I'll kind of. First of all, I totally agree with the networking thing, but I would disagree with you regarding the Milwaukee area. I think Milwaukee, a lot of the individuals in that area are into the networking, but maybe things have changed, so.
Or maybe I just was oblivious, right? I mean, we were we were hammering down clients. Yeah, right. I mean, maybe we just didn't need it or something at the time, but.
I think it's been really good. It's so interesting too, because like we do a lot of business in Chicago as well. There, I would agree with you. It's kind of a little bit less personalized. And so, unless you're really full of business and we got to get down to it, that's not going to be as much networking. But I want to get back to, one of the things that you were chatting about with, with regard to some of the networking. I think that that's a good thing. But one of the things that I tell my clients, Pete, and you were right about the karma bank and all that kind of good stuff, however you want to label that. But one of the things, like sometimes I'll get a client that will say, we're really slow. And I will tell them, get out and offer something or do something for a nonprofit, do something to give back. And it's like magically business comes their way. And whether you want to look at that as karma coming around, I also look at it just like you talked about earlier. It's a mental thing. Because like when you're slow or you're down, you're walking around going, oh, you don't need any consulting today, do you? You know what I mean? It's a real negative thing. But if you're excited and you're doing something positive for somebody and you're giving back, or you're doing what you were talking about, doing kind of introductions or whatever, that's a positive thing, and they can feel that energy, and it comes back to you 10 times.
It's social capital. My friend Chris Brogan wrote a great book called Trust Agents, and still in print. Great book. And it talks a lot about these trusted networks of people. Your network is your lifeline. I don't care what market you're in. All right. It's who you know, but it's also, you can't, again, let's say you only do networking. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
It may work to a point, but I wish it was easier than what we're talking about. Okay. And that kind of brings us to, why don't we do our final thoughts, and we're going to tell you the secret that marketing people just aren't going to tell you. And why aren't they going to tell you this? I think there's a reason for it. So final thoughts. Here we go.
Final thoughts. Go first, huh? What my final thought that a lot of people won't tell. You want me to go?
You're talking over the graphic, man. No, it's all right. Go ahead.
Do it again. I want to do over.
Do it again? All right. Here we go. Final thought. Oh, wait. There we go.
Final thoughts.
It's so corny. I like it. I laugh at it every time. What do you got?
Well, I've got several things, but the first one is what marketing people won't tell you, but which is really, in my opinion, is the number one rule of marketing, besides getting to know your customer and knowing what their needs are. Everybody wants something they can't have. And so part of that marketing ambiance is creating something where you're creating that you're busy. You're creating built up need. You're creating where, you don't have enough stuff to sell you. So I think some of that is one of the secrets of the good lead generation too. Some people call it, it's a limited time offer or whatever the case is, but
scarcity.
Yes, the scarcity is exactly
creating scarcity. Yeah, the opposite of that is, you're trying to win every deal. You're giving every concession. You're doing whatever the prospect asks. I was telling you yesterday about this insane sales process we were involved in with a company, and it's pretty funny. We'll make an episode about that sometime. Here's my big secret that marketing people aren't going to tell you. And why aren't they going to tell you? What they're not going to tell you is lead generation for B2B companies is difficult, it takes time, it's complex, and it's expensive. Okay? Sorry, not sorry. All right? The thing is, why won't they just tell the client this?
Yeah.
Because the client doesn't want to hear that. They're looking for an easy, fast fix that's cheap, right? So it's a lot harder to sell something if you're going to tell them the truth. What does this lead to? You know, the 82% dissatisfaction rate among clients with their marketing firms. Okay, Gartner. Again, I love Gartner. I'm always spouting Gartner statistics. I know there are other research companies, but just like my mom said, I'm her favorite. You know. It's that they want the check more than they want you to know the truth. They know you're going to find out the truth at some point. This is where they start the vanity metrics, right? They're trying to extend that relationship as long as they can, right. Instead of just being upfront. Now, look, do I lose deals because I'm honest like that? Yeah, I do, definitely. Right? But are those good deals anyway? Probably not. But that's why they're not telling you this. It's become very complex. It is not 1972 anymore. For those of you that were alive in 1972, I
always say that
I was 10.
Sometimes it's best to be the second marketing firm or the third one that comes in to work for the company, because sometimes you might have a marketing firm and they're telling the client all of the truth, and the client's not listening, and then all of a sudden they let them go. And then the next one comes in and it's like they're worn down. Okay, now I know it's going to be just like you said, those 4 things. And so maybe now they'll have an easier path with it. But it's a reality thing, and I think people need to understand that.
You know, it is reality, and it's like saying, look, this darn gravity is really screwing us up, so therefore you're not telling the truth. Right? It's got to be easier than that. You know, I mean, it's kind of a law of marketing physics because of the complexity in the market. The tools have become very complex. Buyer behavior has become very, you know, if you go back and look at the 50s, there were 3 networks. I had to look and see if I was holding up 3 fingers. There were three networks. Think about how many channels there are now to reach customers, right? And if you're a business to consumer or a direct to consumer company, multiply it by 10. This is complicated stuff. If we could do it easily, quickly, cheaply, of course we would. That'd be better for us too. But it is what it is. All right. So I hope you'll join us every Thursday or every other Thursday. Check us out.
Every Thursday.
Yeah, whatever works for you. We're really trying hard here to produce great content and to help you make better decisions with your marketing by understanding what's really going on, and so that you don't get taken to the cleaners. And that's really important to me. I think I speak for Bill as well. But it's good to see you, and I like your candy cane tie. But I'm waiting to see the real one. That's going to be flavorful.
I'll try to wear that maybe next week then.
I'm going to try to get more festive. Can we get some lights and something festive? I think we can do that. I should tell the folks too, we're going to probably take off a couple of episodes over the holidays, but we will be festive. I guarantee that. So we will we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Over and out.
You've been listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. Add to the conversation by commenting, sharing, and liking. And don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the comments. Learn more at b2bmarketingmindset.com.